Good evening, brothers. The Sigma Nu Educational Foundation exists to support the leadership and educational programs of the fraternity, as Brother Regent just explained. Programs such as LEAD, Behind Happy Faces, the Sigma Nu Institute, the Lexington Leadership Institute that was launched a couple years ago during the summer, and the conclaves such as this one, the College of Chapters, are only possible thanks to the generous support that comes in from our alums year over year to support these programs, which basically is here to help support you all on your education as great leaders in the 21st century. Tonight's keynote address is made possible by a kind alumnus who has been a longtime supporter of the foundation, and it is with great appreciation that we recognize our Vice Regent, Brother Michael Berry of the MU chapter at the University of Georgia. Michael, if you please stand up. Thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you, Brother Michael. And at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to our 69th Regent.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Appreciate you. I think Brother Barry will probably ask for his money back after he found out that I'm the keynote speaker tonight. So we'll see how this goes. So as I get ready to share with you tonight, I want you to keep something, I want you to ponder something. I want you to ponder what it means for the pig and what it means for the chicken at breakfast. Ponder what it means for the pig and what it means for the chicken at breakfast. Okay? Before I begin, I want to ask a question. Who's this guy? Muggsy Bogues, right? Muggsy Bogues, all of 5'3". He blocked 39 shots in his NBA career, including one on Patrick Ewing, who was 7 foot tall, or is 7 foot tall. Last summer, during the Lexington Leadership Institute, Scott Smith, in an effort to explain about our personal limitations, said that he always wanted to play basketball, but he found out he was too short. I might challenge Scott on that because I know he's taller than 5'3". Now, his challenge may have been he couldn't jump, but it's not because he was too short, right? In my case, as I was growing up, I wanted to be a pulling guard for the University of Tennessee football team. The problem is, as a freshman in high school, I was almost 5 foot tall and almost weighed 100 pounds. Now, if you know anything about football in the South, especially linemen, 5 foot and 100 pounds soaking wet, you're going to get crushed in the middle of the line. So guess what didn't happen? Not because I didn't have the talent, but because I didn't have the size. We all have to know our own limitations. We all have to know what we can do well and where our weaknesses are. Because we can handle what we do well. Our challenge is, if we don't know and recognize our weaknesses, they're going to bite us every time. And I say that because tonight I want to talk about a couple of traits. I want to talk about emotional intelligence, and I want to talk about two parts of emotional intelligence that are, to me, are very critical for those of us who are leaders. And those are resilience and grit. So let's start with emotional intelligence, which is also sometimes referred to as the emotional quotient. But basically, the definition of emotional intelligence is The ability to perceive, understand, and manage and use emotions effectively. It involves both understanding and managing your own emotions and those of others, leading to improved relationships, communication, and well-being. It's kind of like having great awareness of not only yourself, but the world around you, and having the empathy for the other man, the other person. Those with a high emotional intelligence quota have a high degree of self-awareness, which we would define as recognizing our own emotions, right? Understanding what makes us tick. They also are good at self-regulation, managing those emotions. Keeping your emotions in check so they don't overcome the situation. Motivation, using emotions to guide and motivate ourselves and others toward our goals. Empathy, as I mentioned a second ago, understanding and sharing the feelings of others. How good are you at understanding the needs of your brothers? Because as commanders and chapter leaders, it's probably the most critical thing that you can have is empathy. And social skills, building and maintaining relationships, communications, and resolving conflicts effectively. How many here think that those are important traits for a commander? That's good, because I think they are. Now, the better question is, as we think about self-awareness, how many of you, and you do not have to raise your hands this time, but I need you to answer this question in your own head. How many of you are confident that you have a high level of emotional intelligence? What is your self-awareness like when it comes to that? For me, this is the most important quality that you need to be a great commander or leader. You need to understand what makes you work, how you think, how well you control your emotions, how well you understand what motivates others, and how to use that motivation for the benefit of your chapter. And understanding the different ways to communicate to accomplish yours and your chapter's goals. How do you develop emotional intelligence? With an awareness of what's going on around you, awareness of the needs and emotions of others. And it takes practice, like anything else. It's something that comes with experience. Experience doesn't help you if you don't learn from it. There's an old saying I heard many years ago that asked, do you have 20 years of experience or just 1 year's experience 20 times? Now, granted, most of you here, I think, are probably somewhere, if you're average, like most college chapters, most of you are about 20 years old, right? So you don't have 20 years experience like all the gray hair up here, or no hair, as Brother Springer has. You don't have that experience, right? So, my point here is, are you learning from your experiences? Are you evaluating what works and what isn't working? Are you evaluating why you're being successful in your efforts? And even more importantly, if you're not being successful, are you evaluating what is the reasons behind that? If you're not evaluating, you're not learning, and you're certainly not generating emotional intelligence. Now let's define resilience. Resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and the adjustment to external and internal demands. It's a long way of saying that in life sometimes we got to buckle down and buckle up. Because it's not easy. I would hazard to guess that some of you here have had some challenging experiences so far in your life. And you've built resilience through those. And I'm also going to bet that there's some of you here who've had it pretty easy. And you haven't quite had that opportunity. But here's what's important with resilience. As you go forward as a commander, as a chapter leader, you're going to get tested. Are you ready? Let's define grit. Grit is perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It signifies a determined and courageous attitude, allowing individuals to persist through challenges and setbacks to achieve their goals, their objectives. Grit is considered a higher predictor of success in some cases than intelligence. So why are we talking about these? And what do they have to do with leadership? And if you aren't asking yourself that question just yet, you probably should be. From my perspective as someone who has led business and civic organizations from the highest levels, you cannot lead successfully without the proper combination of these three traits. If we're going to lead, we need to understand the traits, and more importantly, we must nurture them in ourselves on a daily basis. As I noted earlier, we must make a conscious decision to consistently evaluate our situations and the situations around us. Evaluate our successes, and more importantly, our failures. Let me assure you, there will be failures. As the old saying goes, if you're not failing, you're not trying. There's only one promise I can offer you about this life, and that there's going to be failure and there's going to be loss. And these three traits will help you get through them. People you love will die. The job you thought was your dream job, you won't get. It'll get ripped right out from underneath you. The promotion you thought you should get, you won't. Your friends and your brothers will let you down. But guess what? You're going to let them down too. Learn to give an apology and learn how to receive an apology. You will most likely have times when you will struggle financially. You'll have a health crisis. Someone you love will have a health crisis. And in your roles as chapter leaders, you're probably going to have a brother or two or a dozen or 2 dozen do something that's going to challenge you and your chapter. I think you get my point. But here's the antidote, as I said a minute ago, to these hard times. When life kicks you in the teeth, emotional intelligence, resilient, and grit will get you through. But here's the good news. You've accepted a role that will absolutely help you grow in these 3 areas if you apply yourself. And here's the really good news. You're part of an organization that can help you build the traits in a low-risk environment called College of Chapters. You're part of an organization that cares about you and wants to show you how to develop these traits. The next few days will be proof for that. If you don't return to your chapter as a better leader, that's on you. And it will be a lost opportunity for you and your chapter. Here's the key to success, and it's pretty simple. Get up one more time, then you get knocked down. When there's failure or loss, you have to take a breath, examine what happened, and learn from the experience. Brush yourself off, get back up, and get at it again. And do it again. If God gives you another day, He's giving you another opportunity to succeed, to excel. See, we don't grow without failing and without falling. We don't grow when life is easy, and we will not become all that we can be without some failure in our lives and challenges in our lives. As I said, if you're not failing, you aren't trying, and more importantly, you're not putting yourself in a position to grow. I can share with you numerous stories from my own life where I was challenged to grow and fight for what I thought was important. Whether it was losing a wrestle-off my senior year in high school to go to the state championships. I had no intention of wrestling in college. But that loss challenged me to go forward and do something I didn't plan to do. Or when my younger brother died in a car accident when he was 25 and I was 27. And having to learn to carry that emotional challenge and also help carry my parents through an emotional challenge that no parent should ever have to deal with. I could go on, but the point is, challenges are going to happen. The question is, how will you respond when they do? The challenges that make us grow at times are of our own making. Other times are out of our control. But either way, how we respond will tell the story of how developed our traits of emotional intelligence, resilience, and grit are. I'm blessed beyond reason by the grace of God and the gifts that He has given me through the challenges in my life that made me grow. And quite honestly, sometimes He did it when I didn't really want to do it. But let's walk back through these traits briefly and see how they can work in your life as you seek to become the best leader you can be. I'm going to touch on emotional intelligence and resilience, and I'm going to focus more on grit. There's also good resources in our lead curriculum on these topics, and I encourage you to take advantage of those as well. Emotional intelligence is that trait, again, that has many components, as we've already noted. It's a concept that incorporates self-knowledge, self-control, social skills. It's critical that you as chapter leaders develop your emotional intelligence. It is about understanding our tendencies when in a stressful or emotional situation, about learning to control those emotions in a way that allows you to control the situation, not in a manipulative way, but instead in a way that allows you to think and act rationally, and then using your emotions to motivate yourself and those around you to move in a certain direction while being aware of the other person's needs and emotions. Without solid emotional intelligence, you will have a struggle with resilience and grit and vice versa. And we need a balance of all three of these in leadership. Resilience shows you can stick with a long-term plan. It's overcoming obstacles that will inevitably show up with flexibility. As chapter leaders, you're going to have those obstacles that happen that are beyond your control. That is when flexibility and determination will help you achieve and your chapter achieve their goals. Over the next few days, you're going to learn a variety of tools to be successful leaders. You're going to get leadership training, the quality of which you probably would not have for 10 or 15 years into your career, if even then. So take advantage of this. It will help you begin to develop emotional intelligence, resilience, And those are the two traits that we can study and learn from. You're going to begin to develop a strategic plan for your chapter, build into it, and then have the resilience to follow through on it. You've stepped into challenging roles as commanders or chapter leaders, and negative things are going to happen outside your control. Some maybe that you could have controlled. And when they happen, are you going to grow into the challenge or shirk from it? Are you going to answer the question? Only you can answer that question, but you can prepare for it. The question is, will you prepare for it? This is your opportunity. Let me offer you a bit of wisdom from past Regent John Hearn that I hope each of you will take to heart as you continue not only your journey as a leader in Sigma Nu and your chapter, but frankly throughout your life. Choose the harder right over the easier wrong. Choose the harder right over the easier wrong. If you make a hard decision, there's less chance you will regret a bad situation you could have prevented. Choose the harder right over the easier wrong. If you do that, if you make that hard right decision, you won't regret a bad situation you could have prevented. Let's talk about grit. And unfortunately, this is the one trait that gets developed through trial, error, and failure. While we can grow emotional intelligence and resilience to an extent with positive outcomes, grit, in my opinion, really requires one to walk through failure and loss to really develop this trait. When the first descriptor of grit is perseverance, then you know you need to expect challenges. Think about these descriptors: perseverance, determination, resilience, discipline, and passion. The first four descriptors are about buckling down and fighting through a challenge. The final one, passion. Passion may be the most important. Passion is what will fuel your internal motivation to fight through until you've succeeded at your task, your goal. Passion helps us to focus on the real reason we are working toward or through something. If there's no passion, grit doesn't exist. Passion is what will get you through the challenges. I want to share a brief story about someone that I think exhibits a lot of grit. My oldest daughter, Christina, went to college with roughly a 3.85, 4 hours short of being a sophomore, and then proceeded to have a very good time. She developed challenges of her own making. One day she woke up and decided she wanted to be a teacher. She's the only person you'll ever meet, I think, after, at that point, 5, 6 years of college, sometimes not showing up, who spent 13 semesters on the dean's list to graduate with a 2.5. Now think about that for a minute. She went to school, almost a sophomore, with a 3.85. 12 hours of zero hurts. But she found something that she had passion about. She found something that drove her, that fueled the grit in her to overcome her poor choices. And when she would call me and complain about, "Dad, it's so hard," I'm like, you made the choices. Do you regret them? Dead silence on the other end of the phone. Not really. All right, buckle down and get to it. And she did. There are a couple of traits that people with grit have that I want to talk about. The first is the attitude of not yet, and the second is having a growth mindset. Let's start with the not yet. Let me ask you a question. If I were to ask you about your biggest failure or goal not reached, how would you describe your attitude afterwards? Anytime we miss or fail our goals, we need to have a not yet attitude. We need to recognize that we're not where we want to be or where we need to be. We need to own that and ask, why am I not succeeding in the way I envisioned? Make the needed adjustments, recognize that you just haven't succeeded yet, then get back out and try it again and again and again, learning and growing each time. That leads to the second trait, a growth mindset. We can have one of two types of mindsets when it comes to our attitudes. We can have a fixed mindset or we can have a growth mindset. The fixed mindset says that I'm someone who avoids challenges, I'm afraid of trying something new or doing things differently, I give up easily, and I don't have the confidence in myself to move forward. Someone with a growth mindset is willing to learn and try new things, to seek help when they need it. They'll accept feedback in a positive way, and they persist when challenges arise, and they will arise. So do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? See, grit is about digging in and fighting for what you want, looking for ways to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, even when, and especially when, everyone else has given up. It is about getting up one more time than you fall down. Here's what I hope you take from this. We need a balance of all three of these traits to succeed. Each of these traits can be developed and must be developed as part of your leadership experience. Each of these traits will only be developed if you're willing to put yourself out on the line by not being afraid of failure. If you're going to excel with honor, you must be willing to grow. If you're going to lead, you have to know how to deal with change and failure. The only way you can do that is by developing emotional intelligence, resilience, and grit. Now, when I started, I asked you to think about what the pig and what the chicken have to do with breakfast. Who wants to take a guess? How's the pig involved in breakfast? Bacon, right? Sausage. What happened to that pig to make that pound of bacon and that pound of sausage? He was committed, right? The pig is committed to breakfast. The chicken, on the other hand, is only involved. They lay the egg and they go wandering back off to the hen house, right? So here's my question for you. And I think it's a good question to ask your fraternity brothers when you get back to the chapter. Are you going to be committed like the pig, or are you going to be involved like the chicken? It's your choice. It's their choice. But as commanders and leaders of your chapter, you better be committed. Because if you aren't, you're going to be challenged like you've never been challenged before, and not in good ways. Commit yourself over the next few days to learn as much as you can learn to take back to your chapter. And then when you get back to your chapter, share that with others. I pray that you'll take advantage of the opportunity before you. And you're only going to get out of the next few days what you put into it. Brothers, I challenge you to excel with honor. Thank you.